Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to do my first video on adoption. I don't feel like I've covered adoption very much, and it has been something I have been really thinking about and gotten more and more interested in looking into and learning more about it. I also got a request to do a video talking about adoption in the domestic versus international sense, and I don't know a ton about international adoption. I know a little bit, so I wanted to share what I do know, and then I have some resources that I think would really help with adoption in general, but also international adoption specifically if you're looking into that. This is a resource that has really helped me when thinking about adoption and has given me a lot more information that I was looking for. So my general thoughts on adoption are pretty straightforward. I think adoption is a beautiful thing. Options that are just incredible within adoption for growing your family and becoming parents, and it really has been something on my heart recently. I know people that are adopted. I have heard incredible stories about adoption, and I just think it's a beautiful thing. So in researching adoption, I have found some pretty cool resources. The first one specifically to address domestic versus international is a YouTube channel called This Gathered Nest. I will link it and put it on the screen. It is a family that has grown their family both through having biological children, domestic and international adoption. From what I understand about international adoption, there is a lot of bureaucracy with it, a lot more so than a domestic adoption. There's a lot of paperwork to go through. There's a very long process to go through. It can be more expensive because you are paying for the child to become a citizen to wherever you're taking them, but specifically the States. You're paying for that child to become a citizen. You are paying to get them there, along with the adoption fees and any of that kind of thing that comes up. There are a million different options for international adoption, though. There's different organizations around the world that facilitate international adoptions. You can adopt from an orphanage or just through an organization, and the price difference can be depicted in that choice as well. With adoption, there is a much broader range of prices depending on what you decide to do and how you decide to go about it. I have heard for domestic adoption, I have heard about an organization that I don't actually remember the name of at the moment, but the price I got from adopting through them was $1,200, which is an incredible price to get after all of the other prices I've gotten. And even within adoption, I've heard it go higher to where it can be $10,000 to $15,000. It just really depends on where you're adopting from and through what organization you are adopting from. The other thing you need to think about, both with domestic and international adoption, is all of the requirements. So there's different testing you can have to go through. There's different documents they want you to get filled out, specifically showing financial statements. And of course, there are home studies that you have to do to show that you have a environment suitable for adopting a child into. And then depending on which way you do it, there can be different obstacles. Specifically, some countries are harder to adopt from than others. So if you're doing international and you're adopting from a very specific country that you really want to adopt a child from, making sure you know that country's rules, regulations, laws about adoption and international adoption would be very important. And also, there can be specific ways that you have to go about getting the child into the States, because I know my best friend was adopted from Russia, and she has a whole story of the hoops her mom had to jump through just to get her here, and it was incredible. That is something to think about as well, because the country can either shorten or lengthen the process of adoption. They can make it easier or harder harder for you to adopt from their country, and it can be a different way of going about adopting from that country depending on the country. For domestic adoption, you also have to think about an open versus closed adoption. I know some really wonderful organizations that specifically do open adoptions, which is where you have the relationship to the parents open and the child can know their biological parents. That's something that you really have to figure out on a personal basis, whether or not you want a closed or an open adoption, or whether or not you actually have a preference in that. And then that can also decide what organization you use to adopt. Laws of adoption can also change by state. There can be different fees, different laws pertaining to adoption depending on what state you live in within the United States, and that is important to know as well. I know I've been trying to read up on California's laws, and it can be really overwhelming to try to figure out all the requirements for adopting, but that is something to think about as well. And finding the requirements specific to your state, they can be different. I know in California it's majorly home study, financial statement, and having a place prepared. So then after all of that, you would go into the waiting period, and I know that is the part that I think scares me the most with going through adoption, is waiting and having the wait period be very, very long, because I have heard a lot of stories of adoption taking forever. This scary situation of having a failed adoption, because I know I've talked about before that I know whatever way we bring a child into our home, I am going to just completely fall in love. It would just crush me to have them then taken back. So I know I've had a lot of encouragement from people on that when I talked about adoption before, that's not as common as it can be made out to be, and that is super encouraging. I just want to prepare myself also, because adoption can be a very long process and a very complicated process. So trying to keep organized with it, trying to stay on top of things with it, I really want to be prepared for when we get there, and I really want to know what our requirements are, what we need to be doing on our side of it. And we've really been trying to get financially prepared, and then through being financially prepared, we can do everything else to be prepared, like creating a good home to bring a child into, whether we adopt or not. But I have really been thinking about adoption a lot. God has been laying it on my heart a lot more recently, and so I've been looking up stuff, I've been researching, and I would encourage anybody looking into adoption to really use Google, because Google can be your best friend. It can also be your worst enemy, but it can be your best friend when just trying to get straight answers on something, because it not only brings up laws, but it also can bring up stories people have posted about their own experiences, and that's why looking it up on YouTube has been a huge help for me. And really looking into the channel I shared, This Gathered Nests videos on adoption, she has a whole playlist on adoption where she compares, she answers questions, she talks about what they went through to adopt. She has a beautiful perspective on adoption, and there's even videos of adoption stories, and just through searching adoption, I have found other channels that have posted their stories of adoption. It's just very incredible and moving, and it was very, very inspiring. And so I have really enjoyed those resources, and I will continue to research. I hope this was informative. I hope this helped you. I hope this gave you a little bit more of an insight to adoption and kind of what it can take. And I do want to keep doing videos on adoption, so if you have any questions or any other topics you would like to see done on adoption, I would love to hear about that. Please leave me a comment and let me know. I would love to do that. I was really excited to do my first real video on adoption, and I hope this helped you in some way. If it did, please give this video a like and share it with everybody. Get the information out there to help other people looking into adoption. If you are not already subscribed, please click the screen and subscribe, and you can follow our journey. I hope you will come along, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!